How's it going, everyone? It's Quayver, and if you just came over from the polls video, welcome to part 2. Now, as you can see here, on her Eidolons, I haven't activated any of them yet, because we are going to be doing a damage showcase. Now, the importance of this is everyone always goes, E0, what's better, E0 S1, or is it E1 S0? Or people are saying, the light cone's too good, we can't use free-to-play light cone in. There's charts, there's sheets, there's stats you can see for all of them. However, I wanted to show exactly what it looks like, because seeing is really believing with this game. So here's the plan. We're going to go into MOC, we're going to go to Flow 12, we're going to fight Japard that is lightning weak, just to give her a fair playing field. The team we're going to be running with her is Acheron, Sparkle, Silverwolf, and Lynx. So this is the team we're going to be running throughout standard on all of them. We're going to try to mimic every last bit of it down to her ultimate, and we're going to be going E0 all the way down to E6. However, what we are going to change between them is her signature light cone and an E5 maxed out Good Night and Sleep Well, her best free to play light cone. So we're going to start with this light cone on her. Now my Acheron stats, as you can see, she's running about 3k attack. I have her on slow Acheron because I have Sparkle, so you don't need to worry about speed. I got attack boots on. Her crit rate is 60% and her crit damage is 166. Now it was at 200 before, if you caught that little bit there, and that was because of her light cone. So we're already losing about 30% crit damage by using Good Night Sleep Well compared to her signature light cone. And the rest of her stats are minimal, no energy regen because she doesn't have energy regen. I have the lightning sphere on her. She has her 4-piece best in slot relics. However, her ornaments, I'm using what I pre-farmed for her, Rudin Arena. I don't have the new set for her yet, but we're working on it. So numbers will change if you get her best in slot everywhere. But this is the baseline for comparing her S1 signature light cone and an S5 Good Night Sleep Well, one of her more free-to-play options throughout E0 all the way to E6. Let's get started. Okay, so we're right here. We're at our first showcase. This is going to be with her best in slot 4 slot. This is Good Night Sleep Well. You can see the automaton. He has attack down, a defense down, attack down, defense down, all type res reduction right now. Acheron, she has the crit damage buff from Sparkle. She has Cypher on. She has Red Herring. She has some heal over time. So this is about as max as you can. She has 3 stacks of quadruple ascendants. And her light cone is Good Night and Sleep Well. So because we're going to be attacking a target that has at least 3 debuffs, we're going to be getting the full effect off of this. And everything, all the other buffs that she currently has from Sparkle and Silverwolf are as max as they can be. So now we're going to get into using the ultimate. It's also going to break here. Important, it will break here. Break's going to give a bit of extra damage, so you should be able to take about 5% off of this ultimate if you want to have a true number of it. So E0, Good Night Sleep Well, S5. Let's see what her ult damage is. Oh, this is also important. 6 of the stacks didn't land on the automaton. So we're going to have to split the damage between the automaton and the robot. However, the overall damage should still be pretty good. However, he only has 1 debuff. So we're going to be losing a bit of value here when it comes to the actual damage. About 50% damage based on the light cone, which is going to be significant. Let's compare the first 2 numbers here just to see exactly how it is. So first slash, 132. Now, if we take 132, just keep it simplified, we're going to do the second slash. We're going to see how much that goes up. 207. So that was about 77k compared to 130k because we're losing that damage bonus. All right, now we're going to finish it off. We're going to get the total number for her E0 Good Night Sleep Well S5. 506,000 damage. That is insane. E0 free to play light cone. Okay, so just like hands off the bar here. We're gonna be completely open and honest. You don't need E6. You don't need her S1. E5 Good Night Sleep Well maxed out with her with decent relics. Like, they're not the best. It was 60 over 166. They could be way better. She slaps. She just destroys with her ultimate. And I held back a bit too to make sure she had maxed everything here. But that was her damage, about 500,000. So now we're going to transition into her S1. So now we have Acheron. She is at E0 S1, her signature light cone. The parameters are almost the exact same. The automaton has a few more defense shreds on him, so that's gonna play a role. It's gonna do a bit more damage. She has the 3 quadrillion ascendant stacks. She has the crit damage buff. She has red herring. Almost everything is the exact same. She has the pioneer piece on here as well to boost her a bit more. This is what her current stats are looking like. And we're going to see exactly how much more damage it does. The stacks are about the same. It was 3 and 6 last time. Now it's 2 and 7, which means that the damage should be around the same. It should be around the same. So we're going to see how much more damage an S1 gives you. Already you're getting 30% more crit damage. So let's hit the ult. Let's hit the ult. Let's see the numbers. All right, we're going to start with the automaton again. Last number was 130. Okay. Now, 62k, because she didn't get 3 stacks there, so it's going to show up as less. Second hit, significantly more. That was about 125k from hitting the robot, which doesn't have as much defense anymore. So that's a huge amount of damage increase to someone that doesn't have defense down, and a drop in damage against someone that didn't have the 3 stacks. So that's important to know. So let's get the overall damage number here. About 100k more with her S1. That is a huge difference. That is, what, 20-ish%? Maybe a bit less, around 18-ish%. I gave you the exact number. I'll put it up somewhere over here. I'll do the calculation, but that's a big jump for just an S1. But at the same time, 500k to 600k, is it really necessary to clear all the end game? Another very important thing here is, I don't remember the exact cycle, but you can see here, on the left side of the screen with the action order, that the action order is definitely not as advanced as before. It was easier to get this set up with her light cone, which means it's easier to ult with her light cone more often. It's easier to get her max damage out of her ult. So there's a lot of things to consider here when it comes to this, because it's not just 18% damage you're getting the extra debuff from her light cone, and it just makes life a lot easier. I would say that her S1 not only is a big damage increase, but it is an ease of use light cone. So that is important to consider. That's important to remember. However, 500k for her Good Night Sleep Well is still really good. Okay, we're gonna get up to E1 now, and we're gonna do the same exact test. Hello, Acheron, darling. We're going to get you up to E1. All right, E1. When dealing damage to debuff enemies, increase crit rate by 18%. This is an overall flat increase to her damage, whether you have her signature or not. 18% crit rate increase is huge. So we're gonna throw this on E1. Okay. Let's throw on Good Night Sleep Well. We're gonna check our stats. 60 still says 60%, 16.6%. I believe it went to around 75% crit rate. Now with that extra 18%, that's going to be above 90, which means that if we weren't critting before with a couple of hits, we're going to be critting with everything now. We're not going to adjust the crit damage. I have another crit damage piece that we could do for min-maxing, but we're going baseline here, baseline. So we're not going to change any for relics. This is just 18% more crit rate. So we're going in with S5, Good Night Sleep Well. We'll see how well it does. By the way, quick note, I'm also starting every single encounter the same, which is Link's talent, Sparkle talent, Acheron talent. We're not using Silver Wolf talent here. Just a quick little note. Okay, so now we're back with the ult, the automaton. As you can see, he has 4 debuffs here. 2 of them are the defense, so it's gonna be a lot closer to the E0 S1 that we showed. Acheron as well is going to have everything that she's had before. Cypher, the crit damage, crit rates. Everything is the same as it was before, with slight variability, I would say, but For the most part, it is exactly the same. So now we're going to test here. E1 S5 Good Night Sleep Well. How much more damage are we doing? We again have the 3-6 split. Let's see the numbers. 116. That's about 4k less depending on the variability. So not much of a damage change between E1 and E0, which means that we probably critted before. But again, this is just a crit rate increase. So we're going to see how much that really affects her in ult every time scenario. Because if you don't crit, it sucks. But like if you have 75%, you're probably going to crit all the time. So what's the difference between 75% and 92%, right? But we're going to see. 236,000. That was brain can't calculate math, so we're going to get to the total here. 622,000 damage. 100k more than the Good Night Sleep Well before, which means that that Good Night Sleep Well at E0 might not have critted. So this E1 with Good Night Sleep Well guarantees a crit. You're going to see about 120k more damage. That is a significant number. Now we're going to check out E1 S1. So now we are here testing the E1 S1. Everything is relatively the same. You see we have the one extra little debuff up there from her signature light cone. We're missing one defense down from before, which means that we're actually going to be hitting less than the E0 S1. So this is E1 S1. And as you can see, we have the S1. She has Cypher. She has all the crit damage boosts. She has defense reduction because, like, I guess she has Ascendance. She has the boost from Pioneer. And he has just the normal defense reduction from Silverwolf's ult. Oh, no, actually, he does have all three. So he does have all three. We just don't see it because they've been pushed off to the side. It's a little funny little thing that where if you get too many debuffs, they'll get shoved off to the side. But so he has all three of his defense downs here. So this is going to be big damage. How much does 18% crit rate really do for her? Add 18 to that. That's what we're going to crit for. So let's see. Again, we have the 2-7 split instead of the 3-6 split. So we are going to be doing less damage than if it was a 3-6 split. But this should still be a pretty good showcase. 111. I believe we were at 68 before, so that's about 40k more. That's big. Hit 2. 262. We are in line with Good Night and Sleep Well right now for a 2 hit. Everything's the same. 3 hit. And there's the jump. 200k more damage. 800,000 at her E0 S1. She was at 600. So when you get her Eidolon, she gains 25% more damage averagely, right? That's nuts. That's insane. And as you could see, we are into the 29th. We are into the 29th cycle instead of being just at the tip of the 30 cycle. But that's a whole gameplay thing. You could optimize your own 0 cycle clears, but 200k more is nuts. Now we get to go into the fun part. E2 showcase. And the reason that the E2 showcase is so huge is just because of what the E2 offers. We've been using Sparkle Silverwolf Link, so we've had one Nihility, which means that across the board, we are losing that damage percentage. I'm not counting that in here because we didn't change our team at all. So you're seeing damage number values change equally across the board between her signature light cone and her Good Night Sleep Well. E2 changes the game. Now we only need to have one Nihility character, which is going to be Silverwolf. So now she's going to be doing her maximum output damage just baseline with her traces. As you can see, number of Nihility required from the Abyss to achieve its highest possible effect is reduced by 1. Max is 2, now it's 1. Now we're going to be hitting the max every time. When the unit's turn starts, gains 1 point of slash stream, inflicts 1 stack of crimson on an enemy with the most crimson knot stacks, which means that across the board with just her signature light cone or with Good Night and Sleep Well, she is going to be getting the extra slash stream stack. So we're going to be able to ult more frequently, more often with both. So we're going to see how big of a difference that makes. Because if you get ult 3 times in a fight compared to 2 times in a fight, and you're doing 20% more damage with one, you're going to be getting a lot more damage out of it because you're going to be getting 3 ults instead of 2. So instead of 40% more damage, you get 60% more damage. Basically, that's how the math works. So Let's activate E2. And as you can see here, we will attach good night and sleep well once more. Let's get to the numbers. All right, so we're back in the ultimate. As you can see, he's got his 3 defense down bugs. Acheron is going to have, yep, she's got her crit damage, crit rate, crit damage, the speed boost, but speed not really going to matter too much for the damage, quadruple ascendance. So we are back at the baseline here, 74, 311. Now, one big thing to keep in mind here, the automaton's broken, so we're not going to be getting the extra break damage bonus from this. However, when you start getting up into higher Eidolons, people start breaking a lot faster, and that's going to be expected if you're trying to hit max damage with your ultimate. So we're going to go into here, see how it is. Oh, let me just show this off real quick too. Good night, sleep well. All right. First slash on a 2-7. 133. I think that's about 20k more. That's a good amount. Slash 2. 305, and now the finisher. Woo! About 900k there. That is insane damage. 900k on a good night's sleep well E2. So, oh my god, that's about as much as the E1S1, isn't it? Whew. So now that we get to see exactly how that turned out, as you can see, the turn order looks a bit better than it was before as well. Now we're going to see how it performs E2S1. This is the big moment here, because a lot of people say E2S1's an excellent stopping point. We're going to put that to the test and see how much of a difference that is. All right, we're here with E2S1. As we can see here, again, 3 types of defense reduction. She has her crit rate, crit damage, the other crit damage, quadruple ascendance 3, and we are at her signature light cone. Now, one thing to keep in mind is it was much easier to achieve this state with E2S1. Her stacks that she gains is insane with both. And I was sitting at max ult with 3 quadruple ascendant stacks like a turn before even this ult with the max damage. So you definitely get a lot more ults out of her. That's just a little bonus note. Let's see what the damage says. Another big thing that's going to make huge damage. Well, actually, we've been attacking the Crimson Knot stacks all the time, so maybe not insanely huge, but it's going to be big. Let's see the difference. 141. It's already a big jump. 320. This is a lot more. Okay, so we're gonna hit 1 million off this. Let's see. 945k, another 145,000 damage. And now all that the Eidolon did for her was give her max damage boost from having 1 nihility character, as well as achieving stacks earlier. And we took away half of the power of it because we didn't use the stacks earlier because we were trying to achieve the maximum damage here. So just from that extra, I believe you go from 125 to 160%, there's an extra 45% damage that you get. Or maybe it's 115 to 160. I think it's 45%. The extra 45% damage you get means that you get 150k more ult damage. And you could build her with Harmony. Like, I'm using Sparkle here because I love Sparkle. I've been using Sparkle and she's great. But most people would be using 2 Nihility here. So just the raw numbers that you can achieve from E2S1 is nuts. It seems pretty big. Now, over here, I'm going to make sure to have the actual values the entire time. But we're just getting started. This is E2. We're going up to E6 between both of them. So take us there. Now, a lot of people have been saying E2S1 is a good place to stop, and honestly, I'd say E0S1 is a good place to stop. However, having a +2 level on the ultimate is nuts. It is insane. That's going to be a huge difference. Let's just see. I have Merp Traces maxed out. Let's just take it. Ultimate, it's 372, 300, 24, 15, 60, 120. So let's just say the dealing lightning damage up to 372% of Acheron's attack. Let's take 372 as a base. Now we're gonna Eidolon her up. Now her ult does a 401. That's 30-ish more percent, 24 more percent on that. All of the numbers jump up, so we're gonna be seeing a big damage increase here between both. Let's see really how much it is. Oh, and also you get 10% more basic attack, but if you're basic attacking with Acheron, that skill issue. So let's reattach Good Night Sleep Well. Okay, so we're back in the ult state once more. E3 Good Night Sleep Well S5. Now, important thing here to know too, we are still in cycle 1. We're at the very end of the first cycle, and Acheron's been able to act twice. I haven't even attacked with her yet, so this is just her ultimate. So after this, she will still get a skill attack. So potentially a 0 cycle on the first part. We haven't gotten to the boss yet. Let's go into here. He has his 3 defense downs. Good. She has her crit rate. She has her crit damage. She has attack percentage, quadruple ascendance, and she has Good Night and Sleep Well. So that means that on the big boy, she's going to be getting the full Good Night Sleep Well, and on the little boy, she is not. That's kind of the price that you pay, having to go back and forth between them with Silver Wolf. If you use Pela, not a big deal. You're going to be getting to see the full damage, but I don't like Pela. I'm not going to use Pela. If you are Good Night and Sleep Well enjoyer, please invest in a Pela. She will absolutely make sure that none of this is ever a problem to you. But that also means the numbers are going to be a bit lower than they should be. But a bit lower? How much lower? We'll see. I think Good Night Sleep Well was hitting around 600, 800. I think it was 600k. So let's see what the numbers are now. 111, that looks about the same. That looks a bit bigger. 765,000 damage. Big jump. Big jump. So we're gonna see now how that compares to her S1. Same scenario. Alright, we're back here. E3 S1. He's got his 3 defense downs. She has crit rate, crit damage buff, attack buff, and E1. Or not E1, sorry, S1. Now, the knots are kind of all over the place right now because it was kind of difficult to get to this state. Honestly, I probably could have just ulted and then ulted again back when getting here, but we're trying to get all the numbers the exact same, so we're going to try to recreate the situation as best as we can, and this is pretty good. All right, so let's see the damage. 107, 335, 1.172 million damage. Going up 2 levels on her ultimate brought her from about 950 to 1.172 million damage. Now, comparing that to Good Night and Sleep Well, which I believe was at 750, that's the gap's growing bigger between an S5 Good Night Sleep Well and an S1 right now. The gap it's definitely growing a bit bigger. So what the pattern we've seen so far is the higher you bring her Eidolons, the more you want her signature light cone. However, we're going to see if that holds true throughout the entire process, because now we're going on to E4. Alright, time to activate that E4. When enemy target enters combat, inflict them with the ultimate damage vulnerability, increasing the amount of ultimate damage they take by 8%. Now, if I am reading this correctly, it's all ultimate damage from anyone, and I don't see a time limit. So we're going to see if this ultimate damage vulnerability is permanent or not when we go in. Shrined Fire for Mirrored Soul. What a good name. Alright, going back into Good Night Sleep Well. So we have the 3 defense downs, Silver Wolf's res reduction, and this looks like the ultimate damage vulnerability is unremovable, and there's no time limit. So that 8% increased ultimate damage lasts the entire time for every enemy. That's going to help MOC, Pure Fiction, Golden Gears especially. Like, oh my god, that is 8% more increased ultimate damage from all sources. All sources. Back to her. She does have her crit rate, crit damage, her crit damage from Dream Diver, the attack buffs, quadruple ascendance, 3 stacks, and Good Night and Sleep Well. So we're going to see what damage looks like at E4 S5 Good Night Sleep Well. Stacks are 2 and 7. 139. 321. 950. Did not as much of an increase as I would have thought, unless I'm remembering wrong. No. 950 was for signature. I think we were at 800 before. So that is pretty. I'll put the numbers up here. Not up here. Sorry. Up there. I'll put the numbers up there so you can see exactly what the percentages are. But I think that's a pretty good increase. But so 950, but that's from the same light cone going up E1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is good to know. We're comparing E's, the Eidolons, with one light cone to the other. So remembering that 950, 2000, that's going to be important to compare to the S1. Let's do that next. Okay, we're back here in the ultimate state. 3 debuffs of the defense down. Crit rate, crit damage, red herring, Virtual Ascendance. And we have her signature light cone. Let's see the damage. We're competing right now with Goodnight Sleep Well. S5 was at 950k, and I think the Crimson Knot stacks were better around. So this is actually going to be so the signature is at a bit of a disadvantage here. So let's see if it matters. 106. That's a big drop off because of the stacks. 366. Doesn't matter. 130. 1.3 million. 1.3 million damage compared to 950. 300. You're losing 350,000 damage at E4 by using Goodnight Sleep Well. That's like half the ultimate damage worth at E0 compared between the two. Yeah, the gap's starting to look bigger the more E's we go down. So we're going to test 5 and then 6. Okay, so the next we're going to be doing here is E5. Let's just check the numbers here real quick. 20% all res pen. That's going to go up by 2 levels. 160% damage, 60% damage. Let's see what the Eidolon 5 does for her. Strone Souls on Erasers. +2, +2. Now, 2% more all res pen, 16% more damage, and 6% more damage. I'm not expecting too much from the skill or the talent, but we're going to test them either way. And of course, good night, sleep well. All right, let's test it. So I haven't been showing skill damage at all yet because we're doing this basically for ultimate damage since she's very bursty. However, since E5 directly influences 2 levels on the skill, I'm going to show you guys the number here for the Goodnight Sleep Well and for Signature Light Cone. And I'll have the numbers up here. Even though it's not shown the actual video, they're going to have the numbers up here between the skill damage difference for the Eidolons as well. But this is the big skill damage jump for her skill specifically. So let's see it. 108k, respectable. All right, I'll see you guys at the ultimate. All right, so we're about to ult here now. We have 9-3, and all 9 stacks are on Big Robo Man. A little tip for that: if you want to always have your big stacks on Big Robo Man, hope that your healer gets hit with that imprisonment stick, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get it in the first cycle. So reset until your healer, your sustainer, gets hit with the big baton guy, and then you should be able to pull off this. So let's get into the ultimate. All right, so we are at 3 of the defense downs. Crimson Knot, ultimate damage vulnerability, all type res reduction. Into her, she's got the crit damage, attack, everything's the same, quadruple ascendance, and we're at Goodnight Sleep Well. So let's see what the damage is here. 1 hit, 164, 2 hit, 325, 3 hit. Do we hit 1 million? 945k. So we're not really breaking that 1 million barrier with Goodnight Sleep Well, even though the talent goes up a bit, all res pen goes down a little bit. Interesting. Let's see how the signature light cone performs. Okay, so we have our signature light cone. This is going to be the skill comparison, so we are at E5. Good night, sleep well. S5 was at 103k, and as you can see here, Acheron, she has her signature now, so we're going to see what the skill damage is compared between the two light cones. 129, so we're gaining about 26k more, which is pretty decent. Alright, I'll see you guys at the ultimate. Now, as you can see, RNG has blessed us, and we are still in the first cycle, so we're going to see a true comparison, everything with the exact same E5 between Goodnight Sleep Well and her signature light cone for the ult. Let's see it. Let's double check these again. Defense, defense, defense. That looks good. Crit rate, crit damage, attack, quadruple ascendance, signature light cone. All that looks fantastic. All stacks are on the Automaton Guardian. Let's see what the damage difference is. We hit 957,000 with Goodnight Sleep Well, I believe. So let's see what the difference is. 169, 357, 1.097 million. So that's about 140k. Not as much as I thought. Maybe we missed a few crits there. It's interesting. It's very interesting, but the data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie. So we're seeing a bit of a difference, but not as much at E5. That's surprising. However, now we're going to be going into E6, the big showcase. Now we are here, one of the few to have the E6 Acheron. Increases the all-type res pen for the ultimate damage dealt by Acheron by 20%, on top of the 8% that she inflicts, so 28% more ultimate damage from Acheron herself. The damage dealt by basic attack and skill will also be considered as ultimate damage and can reduce enemy toughness regardless of weakness type, which means that everything she does is 28% more damage just because. And it's ultimate damage. It's crazy. Which also means that in simulated universe, if you use elation and you get that little buff that says your ultimate's considered follow-up attack, now everything Acheron does is a follow-up attack. So you could run elation in simulated universe and get some good follow-up attack bonuses just from her existence with this. It's nuts. When breaking weakness, triggers lightning weakness breakness effect. And it's also the most beautiful E6. Check this out. God, look at her. She's beautiful. I made a good choice. Anyways, now we're going to go into Good Night Sleep Well. This is for the money. This is the big difference. Which means I'm going to be showing you skill and ultimate once more. Let's get to it. We're going to be using the skill Good Night Sleep Well, E6 Acheron. Let's see the damage. 143k, very nice. See you guys at the ultimate. We're back in the ultimate state here. 3 of the defense downs. Acheron, crit damage, crit rate, crit damage, attack boost, quadruple ascendance, Good Night Sleep Well, S5. This is for all the marbles. E6, Good Night Sleep Well, S5. Let's see how much damage it does. 155. 362. Come on, this has to break 1 million. Come on. 1,045,000. So you too can hit 1 million damage with Acheron if you have her at E6, even without the light cone. That's amazing, right? Now, it's kind of annoying that this guy didn't die, but it's fine. We're going to see how big of a difference the S5 Good Night Sleep Well makes compared to signature S1. See you guys there. Alright, so now we're going to check the skill. E6 S1 skill damage compared to E6 S5 Good Night Sleep Well. I believe it was at 125k for Good Night Sleep Well, but, you know, future me will correct me if I'm wrong and put the actual number up on the screen. But let's see the difference. 113. We must have not crit there, right? There's no way. 156k. Okay, that checks out a bit more than before. I guess we just didn't crit before. All right, so we are here in the ultimate state. 3 of the defense, Crimson Knot, Cypher, crit damage, crit rate, everything looks the same. Signature light cone. And because we got lucky, we're going to have all 9 knots here. This is going to be a big amount of damage. I'd say take off about 100k if you want to compare like the 2 to 7 ratio for Crimson Knot. Like maybe take off 100k from this total, but we'll see how big of a difference it makes. E6 S1. How much damage do we do? Let's find out. 194. 411. 1.23 million damage. Now, I'd say the crit damage could even be a bit higher for her. Attack could be higher. I could have better relics for her, but that's a nutty amount of damage. We're gonna run it one more time. Okay, this is a more even split, 1 to 8, comparing to Good Night Sleep Well. Good Night Sleep Well had 950k. No, it just broke 1 million. It was 1,023,000. Whereas before with this, we got around 1,230,000. So not as big of a jump as I would have thought. So we're gonna see again. Crit rate, crit damage, signature light cone. All the buffs are there. Okay, let's see it. 109, 314. 1,030,000. That's less. So Crimson Knot stacks are really important to stick onto a unit that you want to hit. Otherwise, you need to disperse the debuffs. If you don't disperse the debuffs, you're not going to hit as much damage. Interesting to know. But this is good learning experience. That is my showcase on Acheron, going from E1 up to E6, comparing her signature light cone with Good Night Sleep Well. As you can see, the damage does ramp up a lot, but it's a signature light cone, so of course. But this is mostly for the people that are going to be a bit of a big spender. Maybe not. Maybe you just want to only know the E0 comparison, E1, E2 comparison. We have the numbers all around. It seems like the number gap gets bigger the higher we go, up until we hit E6. And then E6 is for some reason closer, but I would have to look and see at the exact numbers, which future me will happily put right here for you to see the comparison between E0 all the way to E6 for both light cones. To answer the question, do you need the signature light cone? No. Do you need E6? No. Do you need E2? No. However, just like with any unit, the more you put into them, the more they're gonna do. So what's my recommendation here? If you are free to play, just get Acheron, stop there, use E6, or use the S5, Good Night Sleep Well. Give her relics that are decent, you're done, you're good. She could speedrun Simulated Universe, she will be an excellent DPS for you no matter what. She will only get better with more Nihility units as they come out. If you are a light spender with like Welkin Moon only, same thing as free to play, skip the light cone, you don't need it, it's fine. If you are a dolphin, you are someone that averagely, you top up every once in a while, you put, some of your disposable income into the game, and you can comfortably get to E2. I would say getting to E2 and then using Good Night Sleep Well is slightly better than getting to E2 and the S1. Like if you could only get E2 or E1 S1, I'd say E2 E2. That's just my opinion. And the biggest question for those of you that are whales, is E6 worth it? Yes, I believe it is. Her numbers are nuts. Going down, it seemed like there was a small increase in number between E4, E5, and E6. That's how it is for most people. It's big number, and then big number can only get so much bigger. That's going to be relic investment. However, having everything you do be ultimate damage affects a lot. It affects her E4, it affects anything that has vulnerability to ultimate damage, and in Simulated Universe, Golden Gears, anything else that really hard endgame content that has no end, it opens up a strat of using Elation. Even though she's not a follow-up attacker, if you get Aventurine later on, he is a follow-up attacker. And then you use her with her E6, and you get that one specific level 3 blessing that says ultimate attacks are considered follow-up damage. That means if I'm reading her E6 right, which is the damage dealt is considered ultimate damage and can reduce toughness. That should mean that every attack she has is considered a follow-up attack in that scenario. I would have to double check. I could be wrong, Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Fact check me. It's completely fine. But I believe that opens up a possibility for her to run Elation and steamroll through everything in Simulated Universe, and you're gonna have a great time with her. That brings me to the end of the video. Was this worth it? Some of you will argue no. I will argue absolutely. It's Acheron. It's riding me. Of course, I'm gonna give her everything that she wants. Should you pull the light cone? Maybe. Skitty 0. It's fine. You'll be all right. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the notification bell to look out for more videos that come out in the future uploads. I'm just super happy that you guys stuck around to see. I hope you like to see the actual damage. Seeing is believing. Seeing is great. That's all I really got for you right now. Let's see if we could do the same with Jing Liu, you know? All right. See you guys in the next one. Peace.